Welcome to Beyond Sunday at Seymour Heights, a podcast created to go beyond the Sunday service experience, exploring some of the deeper questions of our faith, and offering additional content for behind the scenes and from the cutting room floor. Today, I'm excited to be joined by Mallory and April from the Isaiah 117 house. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you so much.
Just like the last 2 weeks, we're going to be looking at how we can live out our vision of passionately pursuing Jesus beyond Sunday. So a couple of questions for you ladies. Question one, people that may not know the ministry of Isaiah 117 house, what's an elevator speech explaining what you all get to do?
So we exist for kiddos on removal day. So when a child is removed from their family and they enter foster care, they would have to wait at the Department of Children's Service office. But with an Isaiah 117 house, they come with their caseworker straight to our Isaiah 117 house, and we skip the Department of Children's Service office. They walk in our back door with grace and dignity, and we get to lavishly love on them, and we get to jump on couches, and we get to eat ice cream, and we get to pour into them, remind them that this is something that's happening to them, not because of them. And so we get to reduce a lot of trauma on a very traumatic day for a kiddo. We get to pour into caseworkers that are experiencing removal day with that kiddo on removal day, and we get to pour in the foster families that'll say yes. So our goal is to equip all aspects of that so it has a much easier transition into foster care for the child and for the foster family.
It's a tough situation.
Horrible.
All the way around. And so I can only imagine what these kids feel like before you all existed to go into an office.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Maybe not just the one child that's in the office.
Right.
Maybe sleeping on the floor.
Absolutely.
And so to have a place, to have a home, to have a warm, welcome place for them to come is huge.
Yeah.
You know, it's a huge opportunity. And I know that you guys are getting to not only serve the kids, but like you said, serve those workers that's hard work to go in and take a kid away from a family too. I could understand that there's all kinds of emotions that worker's feeling, right? Because they're wanting to take care of the kids. But at the same time, it's like, that's heavy, right? So it's an opportunity you guys have to love on them and share Christ's love with them too.
Yeah.
It is. It's quite an experience. We experience and we see a lot of secondhand trauma. So these kiddos are coming in along with their caseworkers, and law enforcement could have been involved. SWAT team could have been involved. Right. You're seeing a child who's just potentially devastated. You could be with a child who is not. And trauma is just very regular, very normal for them. Mm-hmm. But we do get to love on that caseworker, oftentimes with a sandwich or a really highly caffeinated beverage. So we get to love on them too. It's really special.
It's huge, just all the way around. So tell us a little bit about, I know Isaiah 117 house is not just here in Sevier County.
It is not.
But why don't you give us the history of how it planted here in Sevier County?
Sure. So I'm a foster parent, and as a foster parent, you get a foster parent support person who comes and checks on you monthly, and she makes sure that your stress level is not too high and that you have batteries in your smoke detectors. And she said, well, goodness, there's something coming up in Cott County. It's called Isaiah 117 House. They're doing a kickoff. Thinks this would be great for you, April. And I said, don't offend me. My plate is very full. I don't want to know anything about this. And this is how God shows off and just shows up and shows out. So my other job is in advertising, and I am a part of several area chambers of commerces. And Cott County Chamber of Commerce was having a ribbon cutting for a new furniture store across the street from the church where they were hosting the Cott County Isaiah 117 house kickoff. So I thought, okay, I see what you're doing here, Lord. I'll go. There's a veggie tray. I'll use my lunch break and go see what's going on. And I heard Rhonda Paulson, the founder and executive director, speak. And I left really on fire. And I couldn't tell I was mad or just moved, or both. There was a long line of people to speak with her. And I had to get back to work. So I called and left a passionate email or voicemail and said, can someone call me back? So about a week later, bless her soul, I didn't realize that she was actually a cheer and dance coach at Milligan College and an anatomy professor. I thought she maybe worked for the state. I wasn't sure what this is. All I knew is that she was changing the way foster care began. And as a foster parent, I knew what the experience was like for the littles that I had had in my home up until that point. So I was heated. We need this for Sevier County. We have lots more kids. Tell me what's going on. And before I could get upset, she called me back. She said, honey, we've been praying for you to call. we have the Department of Children's Services in your region approved already. We just needed people in your area to spearhead. So I called Mallory and said, I have something for you to do. We talked at a play date, and she can tell the rest of the story.
I told her it sounded like a great idea, and I would, like the good Christian answer, I'd go home and pray about that.
Right.
But before I could go to bed, I texted her and I said, like God will make a way. Yes. I don't know what it looks like. It seems way too big for us, but let's do the next right thing. Yes, let's go.
So you shared that you have been in foster programs. Is that your background too?
Yes, I've been a foster parent as well.
Awesome. Yeah, so you both are coming to it, of course, with experience on that side too, and then to know how it was before and how that system can easily be broken. And so just ways to speak into that and to pray into it and bring God into it.
Yeah,
absolutely. Huge. So Rhonda Paulson shared with us that our first step would be to come and visit the Carter County, Tennessee, in Elizabeth, in their flagship house. And we just kind of packed everybody we could in my car, and we drove up there. We toured the house. We left in tears, and she said, girls, go home and pray about this. We said, we beat you to the punch here. We've prayed about this house. We know we want this. We're ready. Send me. So before we got home that night, a piece of land had been promised to us. And it was really quite perfect. I was in it from the beginning. And what we were charged with by our founder was to go home and tell anyone who would listen. So for 6 months, we were asked, this was fall of 2019, for 6 months, we're told to go tell anyone who would listen about, hey, did you know? Did you know that kids are sleeping in the office on a night when they've done nothing wrong? And in 6 months, we'd be ready to build a house. And wouldn't you know, COVID-19. So we told everybody who would listen to us, and we just continued to tell anyone who would listen. And, how God shows up and makes sure that he gets the credit for everything is he puts really ill-equipped people in charge.
Absolutely.
And Mallory and I raise our hand every time. But in the middle of COVID, when you and I could not get lumber or concrete, Isaiah 117 House was able to get concrete and lumber at a discounted or free rate.
Wow.
And the house,
that's God showing up.
The house was put together. There's such a testimony in it, but that's what we were told to do. That's how it came to Sevier County. We told anyone who would listen, little churches, big churches, Girl Scout groups, Mason lodges, the Elks Lodge, anybody who would listen to us, we were talking about, hey, did you know? Telling the elevator speech. We talk about the curse of knowledge a lot. Once you know, it's really difficult to do nothing. And we just, all this time, we've just not been able to do nothing. We've had to just keep talking about it. And there's such a testimony in the house itself.
Yeah. And so you guys, we were just talking about this before the show, like we're coming up on 2 years, is that right?
Yes.
Of having the
July
house.
Will
And
be
so
2
that's,
years.
I know, got to be also surreal. Like,
Absolutely.
you look back and you're like, so 2019 to now, like, wow, like God, what you did in this space. But how many kids you guys were able to impact with and touch, through that process. So it's huge. I know you guys have been making a big impact, serving the children. I want to think about the beginning I shared. Our vision is to passionately pursue Jesus and challenge others to do the same. And so how can we do that outside of church, beyond Sunday? And so what would be some ways that people could plug in with you all?
One of, I think, the best parts of Isaiah 117 House is our caregiving volunteers. So it's just regular people, the most regular, amazing people in the whole entire world who have felt the call to come and serve when a kid's in the house on removal day. So they come in, we do a big background process, there's training, there's trauma-informed care. So there's a few steps to get into it. But they come in the house and they show up, and those first few times you're terrified because you're really not sure what to expect. But they have so much fun, and they sit and they can help with a bath, or they play Legos with kids for hours. We watch movies, we cook, we go outside and color with chalk, we play lots of basketball, and they're truly just showing up on a really hard day just because they can, just because God told them to. And some of the most beautiful, some of the most broken stories and parts of that, have been from our caregiving volunteers who have just had the heart to come and walk alongside kiddos on a hard day. That's one way that, and we're the first to say, not everybody's called to foster. Not everybody is called to become a foster parent. And if you can't do it well and you can't do it right, by all means, don't do it, because a kiddo doesn't deserve one more person to not be attached, to not give them their all, to not just fall head over heels in love with them. But a way you can still be a part of this this foster care crisis, these kids entering and not enough foster homes, is by coming to Isaiah 117 house, of giving of your time, giving of your talents. And it's just been so beautiful to watch so many people show up, all different ages, boys and girls, older fellows, older women who make some of the best food I've ever had in my entire life.
Yeah.
And they come with what God has blessed them with, and they just use it to serve in the house so extremely well.
I mentioned the concrete and the lumber a few minutes ago. Everyone has brought their best. God has seen fit that everyone's brought their best to this ministry. There have been people who've written big checks. There have been people who've written small checks, but the fish and loaves method happened, and it was lifted up to the Lord, blessed, multiplied, and returned to us, and has just really grown this ministry and blessed these kids, blessed us.
Yeah.
But everyone's brought their best talent also. And we like to talk about one of our volunteers, and she was a seamstress. And this is before the house was built. She was going to the Department of Children's Services, grabbing bags of laundry and laundering them at home. We would just launder the clothes and put them back in a duffel bag and bring them back. But she did it because she was a seamstress, because her talent was outstanding. She not only laundered the clothing, but she made sure that they were hemmed, and any thing that needed patched, it was patched and repaired. And the lint peels that are on sweaters, that she made sure those were off. So we've never gotten anyone's minimum. We've never gotten the scraps. We've always gotten, everyone is bringing us their very best talent. And when Mallory and I first jumped on board, it was, how can this be done? How can we raise money? What do you mean we have to build a house? We have to talk in front of people. Everything was so big and scary, and it was very, very me and Mallory. And when we changed our mind and God said, you just hold your horses, friends. I've got this. Move your feet. I'll order your steps. When we finally started doing that, he sent all the right people with all the right talents. And we just stood there, and the more we give him the glory for every single thing, the more it happens. We've seen this, so we've been conditioned to just be sure to give him the glory every single time.
Yeah, that's huge, right? Is to see this ministry just like start and blossom, but then to grow into just an army of people.
An army of people.
Right, that are making an impact. So, wow. So a way to plug in, really in a practical way, is to follow through these steps, right? And then to show up at the house. And it's fun that you share different ages, because I wondered, like, is this like retired people? Is it like, what's the age? And so you really see
We've got 21-year-olds that are wonderful. We've got mid-20s. We've got 60-year-olds. I mean, all in between. And they truly just, God orchestrates their availability with the kid that's entering, and it just works out. Like, it just works out.
And they're so fun, because we have volunteers who say, golly, I don't know what to do with a teenager. Like, join the club. We're figuring it out too in our own homes. Right. So they come, and sometimes a teenager just wants to sit on the couch and play a video game. You dare not speak to them because they're not ready yet, and that's okay. But they want you to sit on the other end of the couch. And then you have your 8-year-old who you may have a 65-year-old rolling on the ground with them, because that's what they want to do. And I had just said recently, we have a tortilla-shaped blanket at our house, unless it's been taken by a kid recently. Anything goes. You can have they can have anything they want. But I've wrapped Mallory up in that tortilla blanket, because that's what a kiddo wanted to see, was her wrapped into a taco. So it's really child-led in whatever they want. So to see our volunteers rolling around on the ground, and their specialty is maybe assembling a 100-piece Hot Wheels track, that's not my patience level, but that's her talent.
And that's what that kid wants to do.
And we've got a young man now, young married couple, who volunteer with us, and they're speaking the language. Not only are they learning Spanish as a second language to be able to communicate with our kiddos and their students, they're both educators, but to see how they speak the language of even just being quiet, and their physical language is really, it's just endearing to see how they've grown in just the last few months in even a quiet communication with our kids.
Yeah. So a question for you in the space too is, you've been in there for 2 years. And so what does the growth look like for you guys? What's kind of the vision for the next 3 to 5 years that God's got? I know that there's, as you explained it, right? The the kids are now being brought to you instead of going to the office, and so that's coming down. But I don't know the numbers. So like how many numbers you are serving, and so that's got to be part of this too. But what's on the horizon for Isaiah 117 House?
I would say my first like initial thing to blurt out was like, we're just going to keep up. We stay very busy. We've over 479 kiddos have come through our back door. So in 2 years, almost 2 years, you know, that's sometimes that's 1 or 2 kids a week. Sometimes that's 8 or 10 kids a week. So there's a lot of just keeping up and keeping our volunteers encouraged and keeping ourselves encouraged. It would be really fun to say it's all fun and games and we have so much fun, but there's some really hard stuff that happens there too. And so I felt like blurting out, we're just going to keep up. We're just going to trust God.
That's fair too.
We'll stay open. But you know, I think one thing we have talked about a lot is the gap in the world in general for kids who age out of the foster care system. So if you don't know, when a child turns 18, they can either choose to extend foster care or they age out at 18. So at 12:01 in the morning, their 18th birthday, most of the kiddos decide to just walk out, to peace out, to be gone. And that's hard to watch. That's hard to know. It's hard to know sometimes environments they're going back to, or they're homeless, or they're hanging out with the wrong crowd. And so there is this gap of what happens to these kiddos when they turn 18 if they don't extend, and so many of them don't have enough skill set to even know what to do at 18. You know, I didn't, and I was blessed and fortunate to be in a home that provided that. And I still didn't have a clue what I was doing at 18. Like I wasn't ready for it. So
and this puts them out of the interest. They've got to figure out how to put food on the table and everything. Right? And so that's really tough.
Yeah, so we've dreamed up as, we have a local advisory team of 10 of us, and we've dreamed up, you know, what could we do? Could we build tiny homes? Could we, you know, what does that look like? Is there an extension? Is there an arm of this that one day we could help equip some of these 18-year-olds to have kind of that gap year or a few years of a gap to get some of those just basic things that they're missing, and that unfortunately they've missed out on for the majority of their life.
And so that's something we could just join you along and just praying for God to, what does this look like specifically for that demographic, right? Those older kids are going to be aging out of the program. Like, how can we still love on them?
Yes.
Right? They still need a family. They still need a place to belong.
Well, we say that often, like, you know, the babies come in and you just hug them and love them and cuddle them and sniff them and rock them, and they're just so wonderful. But that 17-year-old who's got 2 months before he's on his own needs that same type of affection and love and excitement that they're coming. And they need that same family that's going to jump up and say, it's us. Like, we don't care what this looks like on paper. You know, this is our family and we want to take this on. So I would say there is a large gap for what happens to our 18-year-olds when they age out of foster care, if they're not already in a good, stable placement with a family that'll continue to walk along next to them. Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that, because I think that's, again, one way we can show up and serve, but really just to go to the Lord and say, hey, what's this look like?
Yeah.
So I appreciate that.
Well, and we just keep telling each other, there's one girl on our local advisory team that we know the Lord has told us she's the girl for it. She's not felt that yet, but we have felt that the Lord has told us that. So
kind of like what I felt about you.
So we speak it over her a lot. You know, but there's someone out there that has that laid on their heart, and we would love to know how to walk alongside them, or how we can, you know, partner, work together, equip them, because that teenage population, they need just as much love and support as our cute little tiny babies.
Yeah. It's so true though, right? You think about the babies, everybody, they're cute little babies. There's a lot of work with babies.
Yes.
But there's also a lot of work with teenagers.
Yeah.
it's just a different level of it, right? Well, that's huge. If I could make a pivot here to a little bit more personal touches, part of our podcast is getting into God's Word and how's God speaking to you. And you've shared a little bit of that already kind of along your journey, but here recently, how has God been speaking to you both?
You want to go?
You know, so refresh and renew comes to me a lot. like, just listen to me. And the busyness, I had recently listened to a book about the ruthless elimination of hurry. And he talks a lot about how joy cannot be in the same space as hurry. And I think, oh man, that's for me. That's what God's been telling me. Because my plate does get full. And I just think, okay, if I can just be a better listener. And we very humbly tell you that we see a Christian therapist, and she says, you know, before your feet hit the floor in the morning, you say, God, what do you have for me? Will you order and prioritize what you have for me to do today? And that's a game changer.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite ways to start out too with the Lord, is just to say, you know what's coming today, right?
Yeah.
In the fire department, I'm assuming it's very similar to you all. It's like, you never know when the day is going to be, but the Lord does.
Yeah. But something I'm looking forward to is, I guess, the first church that I'll be sharing this with is I'm looking forward to an adoption sometime this summer.
That is very exciting. Yeah. And just to continue to pray through that process, because I know it is a process, but that is really exciting.
Thank you.
So thank you for sharing.
We're on the edge of our seats always. It's been a long journey, but we're ready and very, very excited, very blessed.
Cool.
I would say, for me, this has been the season of being with Isaiah 117 House. It's been such a visual reminder of what God can do. Like, I've got this. You know, it's not going to be when you have said, Mallory. It's not going to be when you want it, but I've got this. Like, just chill. Just trust a little more. Stop trying to do everything your way. And I would say the more we saw that happen as we were gifted land, and we had the best general contractor come out, and people showed up to donate different rooms in the house, and just continually I would get myself worked up over something and stress, and then it would be like, why did I even worry about that? Of course he's got it. Like, are you silly? So I think in my personal life, I have lots of little ones. And it's very easy to get worked up and think about all the what ifs and the hustle and bustle and the how are we going to make it all work, and just remembering, like, I have seen him. We have tangibly seen it. We've felt it. We've lived it. And my life and my family is just as important to him. So just that constant reminder of he's got this.
Yeah.
And I need to let go and really, like, leave it there. Not pick it back up. Just truly let go and leave it there.
It's hard. We read it through the scriptures, right? Stories of how God shows up for different people.
Yeah.
And they're just like us, right? They're like, yeah, we trust you. But then they come back in. And so it's hard practice to learn, right? But just to see how God continues to show up for the ministry there. I appreciate you both sharing that too. So as we kind of approach the end here, is there anything specific before we close that you'd like to share?
I would love to share one thing that we do whenever we get to talk to all these wonderful groups is we do have one ask, and that ask is to set your alarm at 1:17 every single day. You know, sometimes I'm driving, sometimes I'm picking up kids, sometimes we're at the lunch table. Like, it just depends, but it's to still just take that moment to whisper to God and say, hey, protect the kiddos that are entering foster care. You know, remind them how lavishly loved they are by you, no matter what they're going through. You know, whisper a prayer for the caseworkers and our foster families, that they'll just rise up, and that, you know, we'll have too many foster families for the kids that are waiting placement. Would be just an epic, amazing goal here in Sevier County. But to just take that moment to talk to him no matter where you are. So that's one thing that we do ask, and we don't ask a lot, but we do ask that you pray every day at 1:17.
And for some of us, 1:17 in the morning might be when that is.
I was going to say.
You know, she's mentioned this before.
Yeah, a few years ago, I was up with 3 babies at 1:17 in the morning all the time, and so that was my quiet time. Thankfully, I get to sleep now through the night, so 1:17 p.m. is more my style.
There is something huge about hitting that milestone of where we're sleeping through the night.
Yes, oh my gosh, it's kind of life-giving in itself, just to sleep a little.
And in a few years, there'll be a teenager.
I was going to say, I'll be back
and at 1:17 slamming the microwave because they've had fourth meal.
meal.
You know, mom wears the, you know, steak sauce.
Yeah.
Then they don't care if you're
season to season, I'm telling you.
So enjoy it. Enjoy it while you're there.
I do. I love it so much.
Well, thank you both for coming and sharing. You know, As we wrap up today, if you're looking for ways to live out your faith and to passionately pursue Jesus throughout the week, I encourage you to connect to the team at Isaiah 117 House, specifically through their Facebook page. You can reach out to them and find ways to plug in and serve, whether that's going out to the house or providing resources that they might need. So remember that change can start with little moments where we can practice our faith and grow in our relationship with the Lord every day. We look forward to seeing you at church soon, and we'll catch you next time.